like to start with a little postscript from the previous video and show you another little trick in Photoshop where we want to create several images that are all the same size. And so what I do is I create all of those together in one document as different layers. So I'm going to pull my layers palette off over here so you can see this. So for each animal that I wanted to have, there's 6 different animals. They're all in the same document as different layers. And I can turn the visibility off of a layer, clicking this little eyeball to the left. So there's the elephant. There's the giraffe. There's the grizzly bear. The tiger. And then finally the lion. And I have a white background in the back, just so I can see the document itself. So I can take the lion and go to my file, export scripts, and save that out as the different images. And then all I do is come back in and show the tiger. And since these are layers that are opaque, the stuff behind them is being hidden. And I can then export the tiger, and I can export the grizzly, export the giraffe, and so forth. So that way all my images are together in one file. I don't need to worry about losing some files. It just works well when you have several images that are going to be the same size and used in a situation together. Okay, so I want to walk you through the creation of the Animal Images project as a Xamarin.Forms cross-platform project. Just remind you what this project is. We have a label, we have an image, and 6 buttons. And the buttons will take us to the different images to display them in our project. Okay, so I'm going to stop the emulator running. Let's start with the XAML. So in the XAML, we have a stack layout as our primary container. And inside that stack layout, I set the background to black. I have a label, which is this label up here, Welcome to SMCC Zoo. That's the text. Set the horizontal options to center, the text color to yellow. I give it a margin because I wanted to drop this down from the top. So remember, this is left, top, right, bottom. So I give it a 50 pixel margin at the top. Vertical options, center and expand. So it's going to take whatever space is allotted to it and give a little additional padding to it if possible. Set the attributes to bold, the font size to large. And then we have an image. And I named the image IMG Animal. I'm going to refer to that in code. I gave a height request of 320 and a width request of 320, which on my Galaxy S9 is pretty much going to fill that screen as far as the width. And I want it to be square, so these are the same. And then I gave it a center and expand vertical option as well. Inside that, I have another stack layout. Now this one has an orientation of horizontal. And that's these 3 buttons here. So these 3 buttons, lion, tiger, and grizzly, are contained in a horizontal stack layout. I give it a little padding of 15. And then I have 3 buttons inside that stack layout. So we have our BTN lion. And I made these with request of 150. You can play around with those numbers. I'm going to come back to this one in a minute because I want you to see the second one here, which is the tiger button. BTN Tiger is the name. And it has a horizontal options of center. I want it centered in that stack layout. And on the button before that, the lion one, I have end and expand. Now end means take it to the right. But because the center button comes after it, there's going to be a allotted amount of space. The lion in this case is going to come to the end of the space allotted before the center button, which brings it up to the right, so it's next to the tiger button. So on a tablet or something, these 3 buttons will appear really close together with a lot of space on the left. I did the same thing on the 3rd button here, the grizzly button. And the grizzly button, I used start and expand. So it's going to start on the left and give me space on the right-hand side. Now for each of these buttons, I have a clicked event. And I just named it show lion, show tiger, show grizzly. You could do btn lion underscore clicked if you want. But we'll write code then for these 3 buttons. Okay, so that is my stack layout, horizontal stack layout for the first 3 buttons. Then I simply copied and pasted it to get the next 3 buttons, and simply changed the name of the button and the text of the button, and then the clicked event. So the cougar button, clicked event is show cougar, the elephant button, show elephant, and the giraffe button, show giraffe. Now I wanted to bring this up a little bit from the bottom, because when I first ran this, these buttons were kind of touching the bottom of my application. So outside of that stack layout, at the very bottom of our main stack layout, I simply had a little box view with a request of 50 just to bring these up. And you saw what it looks like then in the emulator, and we can see here in the preview, it looks pretty good. Now before we code these, we need to bring our images in. So just to remind you, we have here our projects. We have Android, iOS, and UWP. And of course all this is in the, all the XAML code is in our main page XAML in our shared project. So in the Android, within the resources folder, so in Android resources, there's a drawable HDPI, XHDPI, double XHDPI, and triple XHDPI. And all I did to get the images in here was I simply went to my source for the Windows. So I open up the drawable folder where we saved all our drawable images at the lowest resolution. And then I simply selected and dragged to that folder to copy them in. Now in this case I've already done it, so if I want to replace, I'm going to say no. And the result is I then have in the drawable folder of our project my images. And I have the same thing then for the drawable HDPI. Simply dragged those resolution images into that folder and so forth. So here's the XXX. So that's the Android side. I'm going to scroll these back up. Let's take a look at the iOS side. In the iOS side, we have the assets catalogs, went into assets, and in the assets, I would create a new asset by clicking this little plus sign in the upper left-hand corner, choose Add Image Set. So I get a new image set here. And I'm going to double click on it and change the name. I'm going to call this one SMCC just for this demo. And then I would go back into my folder of the images. In this case, I'm going to go to the iOS folder. And let's say I want these cougars. I would drag the 3 cougars into the 3 boxes for 1x, 2x, and 3x. There's the 1x, the 2x, and the 3x. You see I've already done all the animals here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. So we're going to get rid of one. You can select it and then click the remove the selected group button, the little red X on it, and that will get rid of it. It asks you to verify you want to do that. I'm going to say yes. And that image now has gone away. So I have my 6 different image sets here for the 6 different images that we want to use, each one of the 3 different resolutions in the iOS side. I'm going to close that. And then for UWP, we have an assets folder, but that's not where the images go. The images have to go into the root folder of the UWP project. These assets are being used for icons. So same thing, I'm just going to bring up my window again. I'll go to the UWP folder, and then once again I would select the images that I want. And drag these to this main project folder, and that's going to put them into the project at the root level. I've already got them here, so I'm just going to drag out and not do that. But that's how you get these images in. And notice we get each of our 3 different scaled images within our project. Now you can create a folder for all the images, but then you have to put that folder name in the pathway, and that would not work with the Android and iOS side. So if you're just creating a UWP project, you might want to put these in a folder and then put that folder name in the path when you call up these images. But if you're doing cross-platform, this is what you have to do. All right, let's look at our code for the CS side. So remember we had these events in XAML: show lion, show tiger, show grizzly, show cougar, show elephant, show giraffe. So I'm going to go to this code behind, and I added a line here after we initialized the components in our constructor of image animal, that's the name of our image, dot source equals cougar.png. And then all those different show events are basically the same thing. So here's the show lion. Remember, you need an object sender, an event args e, and then image animal.source equals lion.jpg. Show tiger. We simply set the source of img animal to tiger, and so forth. So that's all the code here in this project. We saw this run earlier in the Android emulator. I'm going to switch over to the tablet for Universal Windows, because I want to show you what this looks like on a tablet and how those buttons using the end and expand and start and expand function to make this look a little bit nicer. Okay, so let's run this in the simulator. And there is our project running in the simulator. And notice how these buttons are centered, and then this lion takes up this space, but it uses the end and expand, which pushes the button to the right. The grizzly takes up this space, but using the start and expand pushes the grizzly button to the left. And same thing down here. We can make this full screen. And so now the lion button is really taking up all of this space and pushing it to the right. And the grizzly is taking up all of this space and pushing it to the left. The biggest challenge really in designing Xamarin.Forms cross-platform projects is learning to work with the interface. Thus far we've been using the stack layout, and we're going to move now into looking at other layouts such as the grid layout, the absolute layout, and the relative layout, which will give you even more control.